Hi, and welcome to the Brohoyo podcast, the podcast about gacha in general and Hoyoverse games in specific. I'm your host, Steven, and this is my co host, David.
Hey everyone.
And this week we're going to discuss 5 changes that each of us would make to Genshin Impact, sort of as we're moving into Natlan and looking forward to the quality of life changes that are coming with that. How would we go even further beyond? And I guess I'll toss off to you, Dave, to kind of give some context.
Yeah, so like Steve, you said, mentioned with Natlan coming up, we know some quality of life is on the horizon. Some that's maybe been released, some maybe has been leaked. But we wanted to talk about changes that we would like to see as players. And the way we kind of did the countdown, we list them. I guess we'll start with things that we don't think that they'll ever do, changes that we'll never see, but we would maybe like to have. And then we can count it down that way. And then we can also note which one of these 5 things that we would like the most to have happen. Now, all that being said, we haven't compared notes, we haven't compared lists. And so another fun little thing I kind of want to do is how many of these 5 things are we going to be the same on?
Okay.
And I think that you and I think there's going to be one thing that I think that we match on for sure. But outside of that one thing, I think actually everything else will be pretty unique. What about you? You think we're going to link up anywhere?
I'm going to guess 3. I think 3
Three.
things are going to be that we're going to have crossover on. At least vaguely. Like, we're going to be in the same ballpark. I don't think we're going to word it the exact same way, but there's probably going to be at least 3 things that we're just like, oh, okay, yeah, we're sharing the same brain cell there. Also,
Right.
just to confirm, we're doing least likely first? I thought we were doing least likely last.
No, we're gonna do the least likely thing to happen from Genshin, and then we'll end it with the thing that we maybe believe to be the most likely thing to
Okay,
happen
so
at some
the
point.
boring order. Okay.
Yeah, the boring order. Yeah, well, not because again, the boring order, as you put it, we might end with something that we want the most, right? So do know that what we think is
Okay.
realistic versus what we would really want to see may be completely different, right?
Okay.
So I'll kick it off. So something that they would never do, in my opinion, they would never do, but something I wish they would consider would be, for me, number 5 would be removing the clock function or specific time of day events.
Okay.
So I hate the idea of doing a quest specifically between 18 o'clock and 20 o'clock, or having to wait to the next day between these certain hours, because the clock obviously runs a little bit faster in Genshin than it does in real life, right? It's like growing up when we were playing Majora's Mask, you had 3 days, and maybe each day was about an hour long. So similar type of concept here. But when you give us these small windows of time, and then you have to sit there and wait while you fast forward, the clock in case you missed it by a minute, it's a little annoyance to me. It's kind of a pet peeve of mine when
Mhm.
games do stuff like that. Um, but yeah, I'd like to see the clock, not necessarily the clock function per se, because maybe some people like to play when the environment is night or when it is daytime or whatever.
Mhm.
But I guess more to the point, remove specific time of day events or quests that require you to be within a certain 1 or 2 hour window. It's annoying. It's not necessary. It leads to artificial inflation of gameplay time.
Yeah, I could definitely see them. They wouldn't. I don't see them removing it backwards, like backwards compatible wise, but I could see them making less quests that have that requirement. I
I think we just, I just have 3 in a row, I think, from this most recent event, yeah, I think it was this most recent event, that summer event that's going on. There was like, do something between 18 and 20, do something between 19 and 21, and then also do something between 19 and 21. And it's just not necessary. Just let me do the thing, because God forbid I take too long, because I think time still passes even if you're in dialogue. And so if you
Mhm.
are reading the dialogue, and that was another caveat to this list, is no, we can't say include a skip feature, right?
Yeah.
That would be too easy. So no skip feature.
Yeah.
Can't never.
Yeah.
So along that line, you can't skip the dialogue. If you take too long and you're reading dialogue, maybe you miss that time window, and then I have to advance to the next day, right? Type thing. So that's what I would say to this.
Fair enough. Again, just sort of my thought on it is I think that the reason why they have that is to hide loading screens. It's a way for them to reset and reload the world. That's my guess is the technical reason why they'll probably never get rid of it. But I wouldn't argue if they did. I'd be very happy if they did. Even if it was just a look, in order to reset the area, just teleport away, teleport back. But having
Steve, let's jump to
yeah,
you.
let's
Yeah,
let
your 5th item on the list.
So the thing that I don't think that they will ever do, but I would really like, is increase the level cap for all characters. And as part of this, just to flesh it out, go, well, no, it's not just we're adding 10 levels. But I'd like for, as part of that, they add a new Ascension talent to all the characters, which again, I don't see that happening. Or at least as they rolled it out to the characters that it's rolled out for. It would also require that you triple crown to unlock the character. And basically, the only way to do it would be to go to an event shop or play an event in order to get the item that you need. And my logic behind this would be, A, there's a lot of characters that have fallen behind. I think it'd be good to be able to rebalance and kind of help drag some of those ailing characters back up by resetting the level cap and allow for better scaling for some stuff. The new Ascension talent is there to help kind of fix some of the wonky kits that some of the characters have. And then in order to kind of justify it to my board of directors, if I was Dawe, would be, hey, this is in order to get people to actually engage in events again. Because we're kind of at a point where unless it's a big keystone event that's dropping a weapon or something like that, there's not a lot of reason necessarily to do events if you're just sort of ho-hum kind of going along. This might reinvigorate the player base, get people to come back, get involved again, play more on a daily basis, and get more involved in it. That's sort of the logic behind it. The real logic is I want to buff up old characters, but that's my justification.
I hate that idea. I'm sorry.
That's fine.
I hate the idea of raising a level cap. Now I understand your stance, and you do make some. You're coming at it from, I think, a very logical perspective of it gives the opportunity to read characters that maybe have fallen behind. But my concern and what my fear is with stuff like that is how are we artificially essentially increasing the power of units? And I kind of go to the WoW example, right? When we started in Classic, right? For players that played WoW Classic, the level cap was 60, Burning Crusade 70, Wrath 89, and then I stopped playing after Wrath. But I think it went up 100, maybe even higher. And the inflated numbers that you're seeing at some point, it's just, I joke, it's like Borderlands numbers. It's like how big are the numbers going to go? But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if it's 7 billion or 170,000. They're all like, along the same scale.
And I do think that's a valid concern. I guess my thought on it is that Genshin hasn't done it up to this point, and if you do it sparingly, it's okay. Like I don't have a problem if they were to do this as like a 1, maybe 2 time thing. Like we do this for Natlan, and then when we go into 7.0, whatever the final
or we get the Snezhnaya or the area after Snezhnaya.
Or the area that's after Snezhnaya. Wherever the end get, like when we're hitting the like, hey, we're going into maintenance mode for Genshin. I wouldn't have a problem necessarily if there was like, hey, we're doing it at Natlan and then we do another one at the end to kind of help level everything up and balance it out. I do understand the like I wouldn't want this to be a treadmill that they do every single zone, but I do think that Natlan is a good area, or maybe even Snezhnaya would be a good area to kind of go, hey, this is the shakeup that we're bringing with this new zone. Because I don't feel like Fontaine, and I guess I'm jumping a little bit ahead into next week's topic, but I don't think Fontaine brought enough to the table as a like systems level shakeup as other previous zones did. And it doesn't look like Natlan is going to do that. Like it's mostly going to be quality of life. And I think that's why you're seeing lower engagement. Part of it is just people drop off of games, but they're also not doing a lot to kind of try and bring people back and really shake up the meta, as it were. So that was sort of, again, that's the logic I'm coming from. I agree that I agree. I don't want them to start creating a treadmill of every new expansion, every new patch is.
It would not be received well. Now, I think what I would envision, if this is something that were to happen, like I said, I think the likelihood is low, and that's why we have it. That's why you have it lower on your list. Yeah. But I think the likelihood of it that could happen is, because I know they've talked about in the past having like a 10-year plan for Genshin Traveler's Story. Where I could see it happening is similar to maybe what they've done, with like Honkai Impact the Third, where they've kind of read the game a little bit with upgraded graphics engine, this, that, and the other. So once we close the Traveler's Story, the Traveler's chapter, as it were, and they move to whatever, is after this part of the story gets resolved, they introduce us to a new Tavot, or some type of traveling to another dimension, or whatever it may be, right? And then they take that opportunity, and I'll just call it like Genshin Impact 2. It's the same game, it's all in the same
engine, and
application and everything, but whatever that chapter 2 would be, and then they raise the level cap, and that way it introduces a new universe of characters, but the old characters that we have fallen in love with here in Teyvat still have relevancy, and they are able to quote unquote ascend to level 100 or whatever it may be, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, okay. So okay, I can be with you a little bit, but yeah, that would be my concern, because then even like WoW ultimately went back to just whatever the level cap is, because
they
it's
had
not
to
still
do
rising.
Yeah, they had to do stat crunch and a bunch of stuff. But again,
which-
it's my first one. It's there because I don't think it's
Yes,
going to happen.
I
Like
know.
I have very low that
Right.
it would occur.
Well, maybe I'll be more warm to your number 4 on the list, Steve. Let's go to your number 4.
Oh, okay, we're going back to me. Okay,
Let's alternate.
we'll do snake draft style. So my number 4 is one I also know you're going to hate, but I think it would be neat. If we're not going to increase the level cap, I want dual element characters. That basically a character kit where the skill element and the ultimate element, or their basic attack element and their skill element, are different elements, where they're in their own kit have the ability to do an elemental reaction. Now, again, I know that is something that would break the curve to a certain degree if it's not balanced very well, but that's another way that I could see them adding more diversity into the game, where, hey, you can have a character that has an infused basic attack that is fire, and as a skill or ult, they're able to use electro. Ideally, it would be ult and then some other part of the kit. This way, they're not constantly just spamming it out.
All in one, immediately reaction.
Yeah.
Okay.
But and to be what kind of gave me this idea was way back when Yai Miko was coming out. Everyone was kind of going like, "Oh, well, she's Electra, and she's based on the yokai fox women. I don't remember off the top of my head what the term is for them, but there's a Japanese cultural monster that is built around fox women, and they have this like fox fire is a big thing that they have. Like they use fire magic. So I was really liking the idea of her having the electro turrets that she drops, but her big ult is actually pyro, and that sort of blended effect of she has to build up a lot of it, but she can get her own, and she can kind of mix and blend with teams better. That was the genesis of this idea. But I do think there's a lot of development space to play around with if they were to go that route.
Were you referring to Kitsune or Kitsune?
Yes, thank you, Kitsune.
Okay. I don't hate this. I don't hate it, but like you said, it would have to be done very delicately, because the idea of having a character, like you mentioned, with dual elements, the ability for them to become meta and super overpowered very quickly, if the scaling is just off even a little bit, would be demonstrative, I think, to anybody who misses out on that particular character. But I will say that if you do open up to dual elements, I think that's cool, not only from maybe a gameplay and mechanic perspective, but also character design. Because now you're not limited to maybe one particular color palette. If they're a hydro character, they're going to have a lot of blue. But if they're like you mentioned, fire and electric, you can have a red, orange for that burning fire, and then also a purple palette as well that really contrasts each other, but looks really awesome, because sometimes contrasting colors can really pop. So I don't hate that one. I did hate the first one. I do not hate this one.
Okay. Good to know.
So for my next thing that I don't think they'll do, but again, more likely to do it than removing specific time events, we already have condensed resin, right? So the ability to use a crystal fly and 40 resin and then go get double the rewards. But let's go a step further, especially now that we've raised our resin cap. Let's go super condensed resin, right? Give us the ability to condense all 200 resin and get 5 times the rewards. Just that, I think that would be a huge quality of life to the players that feel that their time is maybe disrespected in some elements of the game. And the idea with this too, and this is kind of the tricky part, the bonus I would add to this would be, if you use a super condensed resin, it would still count as 5 times towards whatever. So
the
if you're
battle
doing, so if
pass
you're
or-
doing, yeah, for the battle pass purpose, right? Instead of being one run of a domain, if you use a super condensed resin, it would still count as 5 runs in a domain for the battle pass purposes, and then again give you 5 times the reward. We shouldn't be limited to just 2 times, right?
Yeah.
And honestly, like, you don't even necessarily have to go like to the extreme every time, but let us choose. Do we want the condensed resin, which would be right the 40 version? Do we want the next level up, which would be the 80 version? Do we want the, which would be three runs or 4 or whatever it is, Because I think, like, for me,
Mhm.
as a player that's been playing for a while, I have a lot of the fragile resin saved up, right? So I have like 60 fragile resins, and it's very difficult for me to sit down and try and justify doing however many runs of resin that is at, even if it is double, right? If I pull out a calculator, right? We can even just go this far.
It would be for every
So if I
2
so
resin, you get
60.
3.
So yeah, so 60 resin for condensed or whatever is, and I have 57 of them. That's 3,420 resin, right?
Yeah.
And if we divide that by 40, that's essentially 86 runs of something.
Oh, geez. Yeah.
As opposed to, what I said, 60 times 57 divided by 200, that would be 17 runs, right? So, that difference in run amount, I think it would incentivize me to actually use it, which, while, yes, the total amount of time I would spend in the game would be less than if I were to do the runs as our current system is, it would actually be more time because I'm never going to do all those runs because, it's just too tedious to kind of do that all at once. So that's what I'd like to see. I don't think they'll expand on what the current system is, but it is something I would like to see.
Yeah, that's similar to a discarded item from my list. I was originally going to put in a system similar to the not Genshin Honkai system, where you move the slider in order to select your rewards or the number of runs you do. My idea would have been to stick it on the back end, where you do the run of the domain, and then when you go to the rewards, you just move the slider over. Okay, do I want 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? However much up until you.
And even they kind of do this in ZZZ, in Zenless Zone Zero now, with how many waves of enemies or how many enemy quote unquote cards do you want, and that'll increase or decrease the amount of whatever the resin fuel is in that game, and then affect your rewards as well. So we're seeing echoes of it in other games, but I would just like to really take to the maximum there.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So, but we haven't matched yet. Okay. So no matches yet.
Not quite.
And moving to my third thing here on the list, going in the snake draft order. So this is a thing I think could be possible in the future, but the game is very popular, so they don't really have a need to do it yet. But I think they could in the future, and it is probably the thing I would actually like to see the most on my list.
Okay.
It's like a very close 1-2 for this, and something I haven't mentioned yet. But this would be being able to purchase skins with Primo Gems, because there are a lot of great skins out there, and maybe people aren't willing to shell out, the real quote unquote real money for it. And I think this opens up the opportunity to kind of, as a PR move almost, because you look more generous because you're allowing the free to play players to maybe focus in on characters that they love and having that alternate outfit for it. And then I think it also opens up the possibility still of, I don't know how much of a dip in revenue it would necessarily be, but now you have people that are choosing between, do I want this cosmetic or do I want to save up for pulls? And your whales are still going to pay regardless. It doesn't matter. They'll pay for the skin, they'll pay for the pulls. It doesn't matter. It doesn't really affect them in terms of that econ. I think where it affects you in your economies, you get to your lower spenders or your free to play players. And to me, my initial thought was, it really is only, I think, goodwill for the free to play players will look at it more as a positive or a goodwill thing because they have that opportunity to choose.
Yeah.
So and I see it done in other games. So like a game, so you look at a game like Azure Lane, which essentially is that's one of the selling points.
Yeah.
You can buy it with the diamonds, the premium currency. Now, granted, that is something that is given out very rarely in that game, so you do kind of have to budget out. But you look at other games, the original Brave 9 kind of did this with some of the skins, right? You could spend diamonds in that game to buy a skin for a unit, or you could, spend diamonds to pull for units. It gave you the choice type thing. But again, I just think it could be a goodwill thing. It's also something I wish Nikkei would do. Really, I wish a lot of gotchas would do it. So I'd make that change in a lot of gotchas. But that's my thoughts initial on this. Steve, what are your kind of initial impressions on that take?
So I think we've discussed this before, that I feel like the reason why we don't see Hoyoverse supporting skins is someone on the back end has made the decision that the development time for making skins is not worth what they would make from just selling them, even as, adding them as PR and so forth. I think they want that gotcha element because they feel that they make more off of that, and therefore they're not willing to monetize and go down the more heavy skin route. Because I think if they were to do what you suggested, they would need to have a team or a couple designers sitting there and actually churning out costumes, because Genshin is criminally low on skins. Criminally low. There should have been, I understand that all the skins are in character. They don't do, hey, we're doing weird, wacky ones. Here's a sci-fi skin. Here's a pop idol skin. Here's a,
No big themes,
Yeah.
just because everything's related to a story event or some celebration or something. Yes.
Yeah, and they're grounded in the universe. You don't see
Yes.
characters running around in bikinis. You don't see them, in, again, futuristic sci-fi gear equipment or modern day clothes. They wear what exists within the Genshin universe. So while I respect that, I just don't think that. And again, I like the idea. I really do. The unfortunate part is I just don't think that Hoyoverse is looking at Genshin and going, hey, there's this big untapped market that we need to get into. I think they're looking at it going, well, the opportunity cost on that is too high, and we're not willing to devote the resources that would be required in order to do it. Which is, I think, to our detriment, and to a certain degree, I think, to Genshin's detriment. But, I completely agree. I would love for them to do that. But I just don't think that the business side of Hoyo is willing to back it.
Yeah, I know. For a player like me, who's mostly free to play, like I said, I think I've spent $40 in Genshin over the course of however many years it's been out, effectively. I would purchase the Shenhe skin. I would have purchased the Ganyu skin with diamonds, and then if there's an absolutely banger character coming out in the Natlan region that I just gotta have because it fits my team, or I just love the aesthetic or the personality or whatever, it might, put me over the edge enough to spend to go try and get that character. Whereas because I couldn't spend the diamonds on skins, I won't have to spend money, or I wouldn't have the primos on the skin. Excuse me. I don't need to buy any more primos because I've saved them up the course of playing the game.
Yeah, and it gives players who run into dead patches or series of dead patches something to burn the primos on instead of just hoarding.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's something I would like to see, but
then it's because I get 60 primos a day for doing dailies. Okay, congratulations! After 4 weeks, I'll have enough for a 10 pull, as opposed to you maybe I don't know what the
you're halfway to a skin or a third of a way to the skin.
Well, because the diamond dust is what, 23.50? I forget the exact cost, but it's a 1-to-1 ratio of that dust to primo gem, right? It's a 1-to-1 ratio. So whatever it is in the store, presumably that's what the primo gem cost would be. And let's say it's 2,000. Yeah, so it'll take you a little longer to farm than it would be to farm a 10 pull. And like you said, for those dead patches, it gives players a reason to play every day, because every day is a step closer to that really cool skin for my favorite character, or whatever have you, or maybe for a future skin that's coming out that I want to,
I would assume it would be closer to 19 to 30, or sorry, 1,900 to 3,000.
I forget what the exact price is, because I think it's discounted to 13 something when the skin first comes out, when they're the 5-star skins. And then after the event ends, I want to say they're a little more expensive than a 10 pull. I can't remember exactly offhand, but
it jumps up. But
that's my number 3. Steve, let's just switch it back to you for your number 3 thing.
Okay. My number 3 thing that Genshin would never, I guess, is main stat reroll for artifacts. Now, I know a lot of you are sitting there going, main stat reroll. Why not substat reroll? And the honest answer is because I have too many artifacts that are defense and then perfect substats. Absolutely perfect substats for some character. Whereas the other way never happens. Never happens at all. So at least in my head, doing a main stat reroll is actually probably better than doing substat reroll. Although I would accept either. But yeah, that's my argument.
Yeah, I would be down for seeing main stat rerolls. I hear you. Or I can't tell you how many times I've run something in whether it be Genshin or HSR, and I get the main stat wrong, but the substats are perfect. That's
Yep.
what's on my Clorind right now. Actually, is this perfect, substat piece for her. It's attack percentage, it's crit percentage, it's crit damage, and then like energy recharge. And then the main stat is defense percentage. I'm like, oh, yeah. We were so close to greatness. We were so close to greatness.
Yeah, and substats are still rare. Like, you're not stumbling across perfect substat artifacts all the time. That's not something you hit every day. That's not something you hit every week. But when you hit it, and then you look up and you see HP or defense or the weapon, the element type is just wrong completely and would never fit if it's a geo artifact and it's got attack substats and so forth and crit substats. You're just looking at it going, that's not. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Just,
I would say go ahead.
Yeah. I'll forward. Yeah. That running into that is just so disheartening. And again, I feel like this is something where you can tie it to events. You can tie it to going out and getting gear. Getting this resource in order to do it. Like, make it enough to where you can do it occasionally, but it's not, you're not overflowing with it. It should be something that you're sitting there and going like, okay, I found the perfect one. Now I have to go and get 5 or 6 of these in order to get all the rolls I need in order to get it.
Yeah,
perfect.
Similar to crowns or similar to the item in Honkai Star Rail that lets you do the specified item crafting piece, right?
Yeah, or you have to sacrifice 100 other artifacts in order to do it. Yeah, like you're going to be sitting on 100 artifacts at certain points. But yeah,
so many times. Well, to kind of expand on that point, you got me thinking now on that. And I can't believe I missed this, but like in terms of something I'd like to see is in running domains. It's one of 2 artifact sets. Well, how many times have we, similar to your point, gotten the perfect substats, perfect main stat even? And then it's the set that you don't want.
Yeah.
Like it's the healing set when it's supposed to be on the DPS set. And you're like, I wanted the other one. I'd like to see a mechanic that lets you choose your preferred set from a domain. And then like maybe 75% chance that set, 25% chance it. Like tilt the scales a little bit. Don't let it be supposedly 50-50.
Yeah. Yeah.
That wasn't on my list. That's just something that spurred into my head based from the line you said there about I get almost the perfect thing and then just
yeah. And what sticks out to me is I remember Braxophone was talking about a Genshin character a while back. He was doing his, like, a new character was coming out and he was talking about like, oh, hey, what's the best set? And he kind of just gave up and he's going, look, just put 2 2-piece attack sets on her. Like, there's 50 bajillion of them. Grinding for artifacts is just miserable. Don't even bother. You're going to have 2 2-piece attack sets that are probably good enough and have decent substats. Just throw those on there. Like, don't even worry about optimizing anymore. It's just not worth your time. And I think a lot of people have hit that where the sheer levels of randomization, the sheer frustration of having to go through it has basically made it to where I dread getting new characters in some ways. Most of my new characters are sitting at level 80 with like kind of scuffed, artifact sets or relic sets because I don't want to have to go through the hassle of re-grinding all of this out. It's not worth my time. And they typically do okay at where they're at. So yeah, just something to ease that burden.
Yeah, I think that's why my Farina, I've just decided she's going to be a support rather than some of our other builds, because the millilith set that you use for her as a support, I have a bunch of that from farming for Zhang Li, whereas the set that you require for her other build, haven't even touched that domain. I'm like, I don't want to. I don't want to go through this hell again, please. But yeah, you mentioned Braxfun. Just a quick shout out to him. Hope all the best for him and his family with them going through some stuff. But anyway, I just want to say that since you mentioned it. jumping over to, I think
Yeah, I would be going to my number
you,
2.
you number 2. Yeah, I know
Yeah.
I interjected with a essentially. But yeah, what is number 2 for you?
So number 2 is a little bit out of left field, and at this point, I realize we're not hitting three of a kind at this point. So I'm out of that particular guess. So we're down to what's the if we can get one to match. But my number 2 is I want them to add a new overworld weekly boss that's different than the current domain bosses, primarily for the purpose of dropping 4-star event weapons, and that's it.
Ooh, wow, this is outside the box. Okay.
Just a way to get a hold of those old event weapons. And the idea I have for it is you'd create a new boss type where it's you go to whatever the arena is and you fight the boss. And instead of dropping a material for you to level up or a material for you to level your traces or anything like that, you get one random 4-star event weapon, and that's it. So you can get that Festering Desire. You're not going to be able to get it to R5 super quick. You're not going to be able to refine it, super fast. But at least you can get a hold of the damn thing. You want I think the fish is a fishing reward, so the healing staff, like there's a number of spears that you don't get access to unless you played that event. You can go and you can get you can get copies of it. It's going to take a while to get them to R5, but at least it's a way to get access to, or to get duplicates.
Would you accept them adding it as a % chance to drop on current world bosses, similar to the Dream Solvent or whatever that lets you change one of the 3 drops, items to another item?
Yeah, that would be fine. I was just trying to come up with new. Really, the point is to get the 4-star event weapons somehow back into the game.
No, I got you.
So. Yeah, like if they wanted to tack it onto the weekly bosses, that's fine. I was doing this as more of a, it's a new, different type of content. It's something that you haven't
seen. They would do it like Diablo style, where specific world bosses would drop specific events items. That way, it gives us a reason to revisit, Storm Terror or Ajdaha or something like that, right?
Yeah, like
who's farming those for mats really as a veteran player. So it just gives us a chance to revisit those fights.
Exactly. So if it's a leeway event weapon, you have to go fight Ajdaha. If it's a mon event weapon, you have to go fight either the wolf or Duran.
Well, the wolf or the Stormwind tower. Yeah, Ajdaha or Child, right?
Yeah.
And or Tartaglia. Yeah, I like that. That's thinking outside the box. But I do really like that one because for players that missed events. Or people that are just like to be collectioners, and finish the collection, as it were, that you can't. There's not a way to do it at present time.
Or if you need a copy of a weapon,
to R,
or just even I have the R5, but I have 2 characters that want that weapon, and I don't have enough 5 cost. Like I want Festering Desire on both Bennett and on someone else who isn't Bennett.
All right. Well, along those same lines, for weekly bosses. Something I'd like to see, and they do it in Honkai Star Rail, so I don't know why we don't have it, but let me do a weekly boss 3 times a week for the rewards. Don't limit it to like doing that boss 1 time a week. I really wish they would change this. They've enabled it in Star Rail, so why can't we have it in Genshin? Because I don't, it was like I said, who needs to do the wolf right now? Who needs to do Tartaglia or Ajdaha anymore if you're a veteran player? Like for me, I specifically just pulled Farina, and before that pulled Clorind. Well, I need to be farming the whale, and I need to be farming the poison green serpenty thing, which both of those fights are super annoying, but let me do them more than once a week so I can get what I need to ultimately get their talent skills all the way up to 10s instead of having to wait effectively, a month, with 1 farm a week to get them. Because even with the Dream Solvent, and if I miss on that Ascension material, convert it over, you're still only converting maybe 1 or 2 pieces. And if you need 3 skills, well, that's what you need 1 of each of those at level to get to level 8, and I think you need like 2 at 9, and then like 2 more at 10. So you're looking like 15ish of those pieces, and you get maybe 2, and you get maybe 2 per boss drop. Like, come on, just let us do it, please. Like we got enough grinding to do with artifacts. Just
You have to
give us
wait for the crown anyways on
right.
some of these. Like, crowns don't just fall from the sky.
We're already time gated by crowns. That's
Yeah.
even a good point I hadn't thought of. But yeah, just come on. Like artifact grinds are already enough. The time gatiness of things just doesn't need to be there. But anyway, that's one that I put in here that I thought we would maybe match on. And then for my number one, and the thing that I would believe to be most likely to happen, and I'm actually going to count this as we kind of matched, but item reroll on a substat.
Okay.
So it kind of in the same argument of what we were talking about earlier with main stats. I would like to see a substat reroll option, because the number of times that we get 3 out of the 4 substats, and then it's like, oh man, crit damage, crit rate, got energy recharge or whatever for this particular carry, and it's like, here's flat defense.
Yep. And
Let
it
me
rolls
reroll it.
into that 4 times.
Yeah, and then it roll, and you're like, okay, well, it hit it once, but maybe it doesn't hit again. We got a 75% chance to hit a line item I like. Boom, flat defense. All right, this artifact's dead to me. Like, we went from a killer artifacts to one that's just dead in the water when you plus 4'd it, and then even more so once you plus 8'd it and seen it hit again, right?
Yeah.
So, and there's a couple different ways to do this that I've seen in gacha games, and while there is one that I would really wish they would take this approach, just giving me the opportunity. But the one is the obvious, just let us choose a line item to reforge or reroll. And then we can re-roll that item, and then it goes into whatever else that it may be. It can't be the same stat. But then you still have the potential with that to go from flat HP to flat defense, or flat defense to flat attack, or something like that, right? So there's still a chance to quote-unquote miss. The other formula that you could do with this system is let us choose the line item, or this is something that Epic 7 did, where there's literally an item, the items are their own drops. So to change a line item to crit damage percentage, you would have to have the item that corresponds to crit damage percentage.
Yeah.
And then there would be another item for change a line item to attack percentage type thing. And they may have gone even further down the path of like, this will change boots to attack percentage, as opposed to this will change chest attack percentage.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember if it had that. That might be a way they go just to make it, more tedious. That's the style of this particular artifact. That's the approach. That's their approach to the artifacts, right, as they are now.
Yeah.
So why would a revision not be kind of tedious as well? So, but even if it is tedious, I still want to at least have that opportunity, because, like we've talked about with main stats, and then even with substats too, we're so close to greatness, and then you just miss on a roll, and like you already have the RNG of when a stat levels up as a substat. Even that has a range. Right, when you get like 2.1 crit rate, and that's the minimum crit rate you can get, versus when you get like 3.6 or whatever, and that's closer to the max. Like, we're already even RNGing that, so it's not going to be perfect.
Yeah, I think you're more likely to get hit by lightning than you are to get like a perfect artifact.
Right. Of the millions of artifacts that have been rolled and the millions of players in Genshin, can we get that data on perfect artifacts, having the perfect main stat that you want and the set that you want, and the substats being maxed on every single roll? Yeah, just give us that chance to re-roll the substat. But that's my thoughts on that. That's my number one thing. I do think that's most likely, because I believe that to be an easy thing to do, and they can, similar to what you mentioned, incorporate it as an item reward from events. So it would incentivize players to play events and retain them, right? It would so they wouldn't have dead patches. It would be like, oh, here's my opportunity to get that item reroll thing that I need, so I can make my carries that much better for the end game that eventually is going to exist, Copium. But anyway, that's my take on that. See, I don't know if you have any more thoughts on that, or if you want to just get to your number one thing.
Well, so you mentioned in-game, and I feel like that's a good segue into my number one, which is a new in-game mode. I go into...
Steve, we just got a new in-game.
I got comments on that one. Actually, you know what? I'll just jump right in. So with Natlan, they are making changes to the new, where they've taken feedback and they've basically said, no, it's the kids that are wrong. They're lowering the amount of characters that you need in order to do this new in-game mode, but they're lowering it by 2. So instead of needing 18 characters, you just need 16. Because, it is technically a more reasonable number, but it is still not a reasonable number. So yeah, what I want is a reasonable in-game mode. The version of it that I have sort of put together for this is a semi-roguelike mode similar to Honkai's Simulated Universe, where you have a series of arenas that you go into and you just teleport between them. You don't have to run, you don't have to do anything, just to save technical overhead. You do that. Ideally, it would be a small arena, smaller than an Abyss-sized arena. And the gimmick that I have for it is that one of the things that disappoints me with Genshin, I know I just did a quick segue there, but one of the things that annoys me about Genshin is that in the overworld, you have all these ways to interact with the environment. And then 90% of the combat that they want you to do in the game is they drop you into an empty arena and have kind of go, just do it. And so the idea would be with this, you would have arenas where, for example, it's always raining in the arena. It's just like it's a rainy day out in the overworld, just in this arena is always rain. You could have an arena where there are random updrafts that happen. So you could potentially do very easy plunging attacks if you're able to get to them and use those. You could also have an arena where there's grass on the ground and sections of the grass light on fire and others of the grass are safe, so you have to kind of move and shift around for that. There's lots of different ways you can use the environment that they built for the overworld in these arenas to make somewhat more interesting combat. I'm not going to pretend like there aren't going to be people who are going to roll in with their E6 or their C6 character and just demolish it and basically go, I didn't even have to engage with the mechanics. That's going to happen. But at least something to, a little spice to the arenas. Again, ideally a roguelike mode similar to Honkai where you can kind of build buffs that are powerful and make you feel like you're doing something and like you're putting together an actual build instead of, here's some attack. Okay, did you not get the crit bonuses for this Abyss? That's fine. Just log in tomorrow and hope that you get the crit ones because those are the only ones that... Stuff like that. I think it's the most likely to happen because I think they are realizing that they need to come up with some sort of end game. They finally relented and are making moves, but I just don't... They haven't hit what I'm looking for yet. But yeah, your thoughts?
Yeah, as far as the premise, right? Because you say this is the most likely thing to happen. So the premise, them adding new end game content. Yes, I believe they're going to add new end game content. That was kind of an easy one.
Yeah.
As far as specific to how you're describing it, while I do find that would be interesting, and that's something I'd like to see. Yeah, to that specificity, I don't think they'll necessarily go that route.
No.
But I agree that would be interesting and fun. So that's going to do for our top 5 changes we would make. If my count is correct, I think I was correct that we matched at 1, and I know we main stat versus substat, but effectively the same thing. I'll be honest, when I was making this list, I thought you were going to have the weekly boss mats letting us do the same boss over again.
I'm going to be honest,
I thought we were going to match there.
I thought that was a change that they're making at Natlan. I didn't double check it, but I thought
I have no idea if it is or not.
Yeah, so I don't know. I don't remember if that was a quality of life change that they said that they were doing, but that, like, in my head, I'm going like, I think that was one that they're doing. I'm not going to put it in there just in case.
Oh man, well, if that is a quality of life change that they're going to make, then I've gypped the list. But I did have the one that I piggybacked off of from what you were saying. So I guess that can be my 5th. And yeah, because I was unaware. I haven't read up too much on any Natlan quality of life things because I know there's a lot of leaks out there.
Yeah,
I've kind of watched the trailers, which got me intrigued about where we're going, and some of these characters look absolutely fantastic. So speaking of characters, though, we did have a new character drop in Genshin with Emily, and then we also have a new event going on as well in Honkai. So let's jump into that next. So looking at Genshin, let's talk about Emily, the new character that just dropped. She is a 5-star Dendro polearm user, and her role within a team is going to be a sub DPS. She does a lot of her damage while she's off the field, and she really enables burning teams. So I'm not going to go into specifics about like her kit and her number stuff, but just kind of a general overview for her. She is a perfect candidate for the Unfinished Reverie set, which is the 2-piece attack plus 18%, and the 4-piece is after leaving combat for 3 seconds, damage dealt increases by 50%. And then if in combat, if there's no burning opponents, are nearby for more than 6 seconds, the damage decreases. Well, fun fact, her whole thing is getting people burning, right? She's a huge enabler for that. So this is perfect for her. And this effect still triggers even if the equipping character's off field. Because when a burning opponent exists, it actually does the flip. Damage increases every 10% with that particular set. So it's perfect for her. And then just some example teams for her if you are going to be running a pure burning team. It'd be something like her, Arlecchino, Jingling, Bennett, or her, Linny, Jingling, and Bennett. I think you kind of get the theme there.
Yeah.
But there are some other like teams out there that are like burn melt teams. So it'd be like Emily Ganyu, Jingling, Bennett, and Emily Withersley, Jingling, Bennett. She does technically have work with Electro teams, like if you wanted to run a Quicken team, but that's not the ideal play, right? Because a lot of her kit is specifically for burning enemies. So, but if you do need her in a Quicken team for whatever reason, Emily Sino Fischl, Baizu, Emily Clorind Fischl, Kazuha, right? So that's kind of just, again, very brief, general Emily breakdown. We do have Natlan around the corner. We don't know officially very much about the new characters and their kits, but if you are interested in seeing what they look like, the trailers are out there, so you can kind of see what the characters look like, and from that maybe extrapolate what you think they're going to be. But if you like Emily, by all means, pull for her, but she's not necessarily, I would say, a must-have, but she is does look a little fun with being essentially a Dendo Yaimiko in terms of her gameplay style. Now, as far as events going on, we do have a new event over in Honkai Star Rail. So, Steve, tell us what's going on over there.
So, I don't know what they're smoking over at Hoyo, but they've released a new event. It is Pokemon Snap, but for trash can people. There's really no better way to phrase it. It is just Pokemon Snap, but instead of Pokemon, you take pictures of either bronze, silver, or gold trash cans. If you capture pictures of the golden trash cans while they're posing, you get more points. A la, Pokemon Snap, if you can get rare photos, you get more points. That's what it is. It has the standard Hoyo. You can't get it done in one day. You're probably going to have to wait until
the last day.
Unless it's the last day in order to try and get it done. Yeah, it's fine. It's a perfectly fine event. You can knock it out fairly quickly if it is the last day. If it's not, then it's fairly straightforward. I didn't have any problems knocking out the majority of it. Yeah, it's neat. It's a fun little bit. They're going really trash heavy this patch because I believe the upcoming event that's going to be after this is also like built around the trash can people. So I don't know if they're leaning into the meme or what's going on there, but it's going to be a trash heavy event patch. That's basically it. Not much to say more.
All right. Well, that was a little simple. Then we'll have to check that one out as they allow us to. So moving away from Hoyoverse, we do have some news outside of the Hoyoverse realm and some other gotchas. So I did want to start with the announcement we saw this week, which is Arknight Universe, and it's going to be their open world game, action RPG. They're jumping on that wagon with everybody else. But the news with Arknight Enfeld is they're going to be attending Gamescom and PAX West. So that implies that we're going to get more information about the game at those particular conferences, right? Whether they be trailers, gameplay, character stuff, updates on a launch date type stuff. Just any insight into the game. We'll probably be looking for some news at those particular events. So kind of excited to see what that goes there. Along the same lines, in terms of world action RPGs, Wuthering Waves just announced they're going to be giving away a free 5-star unit during the second half of their version 1.2 patch. So Zhang Li Yao is the character they're going to be giving out. So, it only took them until patch 1.2 to give out a free 5-star, as opposed to Genshin, which has never. And Dr. Ratio is in what for Honkai Star Rail? But anyway, if you are still playing Wuthering Waves, keep an eye out for that on the calendar. I know for Steve and I, we're going to talk about that. It's not going to be enough to draw us back to the game. Like I said, we already got a lot on our plates in terms of the Gotchaverse, but for those that are still playing it, it is available out there for you. Other news, Brown Dust 2, they did announce they were going to be doing a live stream, which is going to be happening after we record this, but by the time we edit and post this, it will have happened. So be sure to check that out if you're interested in that live stream. Essentially, they're going to be probably unveiling or teasing some new characters and costumes, new events that are coming out as far as like kind of a promo. It looks like there's going to be a summer theme type event. So with that, I would imagine it's part 2 of their summer stuff. So probably more swimsuit skins. They teased one of their units. Looks like Reese appears to be kind of teasing the photos for the live stream, but that'll officially, we'll know more about that August 9th at 1900 Korean Standard Time, I believe is when that happens. And lastly, as far as new games, new things, events going on, Nike, Goddess of Victory, they have a new event going on with the new character release. So kind of continuing the schoolgirl team, schoolgirl squad that they have. They just had Pine and her event. Now we have a new character, Zwei, and her event. And Zwei is going to be a Burst 1 shotgun user, manufacturer Elysian. So first Elysian unit that we've probably seen in a while in all the mix of Tetra units we've been getting. So I haven't got to do any testing or read on her as far as number crunching, as far as what the meta is going to look like with her. But if you are interested in her, she is available now for the next couple weeks. Also with this event, they did another costume gacha. So Marciana, who's the character that's been out, got a costume which relates to Chef's Kiss. But for those that are unfamiliar with gacha costumes in Nike, essentially, well, you technically have a chance to pull early. Be prepared to spend $60 to get skin. Now, granted, you get other growth materials and other pulls and stuff with those $60. But the main thing is it's probably going to be the last pull in that gacha that you get it. So be prepared to spend $60 if you go for it. So that's going to be kind of all the news that we have from other gachas. We do want to thank you guys for joining us this week. Let us know, what changes you would make in Genshin Impact, or maybe you have other gachas that you play that you'd like to see some changes in. Or let us know what you think of the changes that we suggest. Maybe we're crazy in some of our changes we'd like to see, or maybe you agree with us, but let us know down below. If you enjoyed the episode, of course, and you'd like to show your support, be sure to leave a like, leave a follow, hit that subscribe button, and subscribe to the channel. You can email us at brohoyo@gmail.com with a question or suggestion for the show. We have a link to our Discord down in the description below, so you can join us over there for news, game night, content notifications, codes for free Mojang and stuff when those come out. Join us next week when we review Genshin regions as we prepare for Natlan release. Until then, keep gaming.
We made a choice, go fight against your fate! Victory!